Ever find yourself kind of mesmerized by a cool t-shirt you see? Like thinking, wow, I wish I had thought of that. Or maybe you have this awesome design idea in your head and you're like, man, this needs to be out in the world. People need to wear this. It could be like on your own personal art or even the start of a whole t-shirt business. There's something really exciting about making your own t-shirt designs a reality. And for anyone out there who has been thinking about trying DIY t-shirt printing, this deep dive is going to be exactly for you. Whether you're just looking for a fun weekend project or you've got dreams of starting your own clothing line, we're going to be breaking it all down. We'll help you figure out the best way to get your designs from your head onto actual fabric. And we're going to be sifting through all of the biased info you often find online. If you've even Googled t-shirt printing, you know what I'm talking about. There's so many people out there just basically spewing out whatever method they're producing, and it feels like every website is just pushing their technique as the best, the easiest, the most amazing. Like, it's always suspiciously amazing. And with all that, it's hard to know what to believe. In this video series, I wanted to create a resource that is totally unbiased, no hidden agendas, just the straight facts, which is exactly what I aim to do in this deep dive series. DIY t-shirts at home, no fluff, just the info that you need to get started. And speaking of getting started, this is actually going to be the beginning of a whole series we're going to be doing on DIY t-shirt printing. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be covering everything from coming up with your own killer designs to finding the best materials. We're going to be diving in deep on how to use different equipment, how to use different methods, and even talk about how you can actually start making money from your own t-shirt creations. Think of this episode as laying the groundwork. We're going to be introducing you to the main ways that you could actually print t-shirts at home. Whether you're a total beginner or you've got some business experience already, we'll focus on HTV, that's going to be heat transfer vinyl, sublimation, the classic tried and true screen printing method, and honestly the one that everyone's been talking about these days, DTF, direct to film. And what's so interesting is that each of these methods is kind of like its own unique animal. Each has its pros, each has its cons, so depending on what you're really trying to achieve, the options are endless. So to help you choose the right method for you, we're going to be looking at 4 key factors. These are going to be the things that you need to consider when making your decision. First up, cost. How much is this going to cost to get started? How much is it going to cost to keep on making these t-shirts? And then secondly, I think we obviously need to be considering the ease of use. How hard is it to learn this method? Can a beginner pick it up pretty easily? Third, the durability. How well is this design going to last on the t-shirt? Is it going to survive multiple washes? And then finally, we need to be considering how scalable this print method is. If you do decide to start selling your t-shirts, can you ramp up production without too much trouble? If you understand these 4 factors that I'm going to be talking about for each of these methods, you'll be able to pick up one that best aligns with what you want to do. Whether that's just making a single shirt for yourself or launching a full-blown t-shirt empire, let's jump straight into the first method, HTV, or heat transfer vinyl. Okay, so with HTV, you can use a special machine, a vinyl cutter, to cut out your designs from the sheets or rolls of colored vinyl. It's kind of like making a sticker, but a sticker that's made to be permanently attached to fabric. To do that, you use heat and pressure, usually with a heat press. It is a great technique for bold, kind of simple designs. Think of solid blocks of color rather than those intricate details. Now, in the definitive guide to DIY t-shirt printing at home, the ebook, which you can download for free, you can get your own copy at amstransfers.com/ebook or click the QR code on screen. We talk about the ideal user for each of these different methods. So who would I say HTV is best for? Yeah, I would say HTV is perfect for people who are just getting started with t-shirt printing, like hobbyists, crafters making t-shirts every now and then. It's a really great option for small businesses that get orders of all different sizes, sometimes one shirt, sometimes even batches of 20. It really seems like HTV would be pretty flexible and perfect for situations and scenarios like that. All right, let's get into those 4 factors that I was talking about. So starting with costs, what kind of investment are we looking at here? Honestly, starting out with HTV can be pretty affordable, especially if you're just trying it out. The ebook guide mentions in chapter 5 that there are some pretty inexpensive vinyl cutting machines out there and even some cheap heat presses that can be perfect for beginners. And because this setup is relatively cheap, it's perfect for what's called on-demand printing. Basically, you only print the t-shirt when you get an order for it, so you don't have to worry about stocking up tons of inventory beforehand. That can be really appealing, especially if you're just starting out. Sound good? Okay, but what about the ease of use? Can someone who's never even printed a t-shirt before just jump right in with HTV? Yeah, for the most part, setting it up is pretty straightforward. It's good for both single shirts and small batches. The main thing that you need to learn with HTV is going to be weeding. So I'm not talking about the drug or anything like that, but after your design is actually cut on the vinyl cutter, there's going to be a bunch of vinyl around the design that you don't want on your shirt. Now, weeding is basically just carefully peeling away any of that extra vinyl, leaving only the design itself. It does take a little bit of practice to get the hang of it, but it's not super complicated. We go into a lot more detail about weeding, how to weed, the best tips and tricks in chapter 7, if you guys want to check that out later. Okay, weeding, something I'm going to need to consider for ease of use. Got it. What about the durability? How well do HTV designs hold up in the wash? HTV is actually known for being quite durable, especially those bold designs that we talked about earlier. I'm talking like the big blocks of text. With vinyl and HTV, the durability that you get from a heat transferred design, its durability is actually one of its biggest advantages. If you apply it correctly, a good HTV design should last through a lot of washes without any cracking or peeling. All right, so it sounds pretty tough, but how fast can we crank them out? Let's talk about scalability. Say somebody starts out with HTV and their business takes off. Can they keep up with the demand using that same method? If you're getting massive, I'm talking like factory level orders, it might be more efficient to use something like screen printing. But HTV is really flexible. You can make one shirt or you can make 20 shirts with pretty much the same effort. So you can definitely grow with it, and it can grow as your business grows. And as you start making more shirts, you can always invest in more vinyl cutters, more heat presses to speed things up. So HTV is looking pretty good. Overall, it's a solid option for a lot of people, especially when you're just starting out. All right, so on to the next method, sublimation. This one, it always sounds scientific to me, but what's the basic idea behind it? So sublimation printing, we use special sublimation inks that are printed onto a transfer paper. Then when you apply heat and pressure, usually with something like a heat press, something really cool happens. The solid ink turns into a gas, like poof, straight from a gas to a solid, no liquid in between. And this gas goes right into the fabrics of the fabric and bonds at a molecular level. So it's not even just like sitting on top of the fabric, it's actually fused. It is a part of it. The end result is a printed, super bright, full color image that feels smooth to the touch. You don't feel the design at all because it literally is embedded into the fabric. So who is sublimation typically the best choice for? Our ebook recommends that it is perfect for those with apparel brands that want to create very detailed, colorful, all over designs. Think cut and sew full color apparel. You know, the kinds like with the all over prints that cover the entire garment. It's also a great method for crafters who want more complex, colorful projects on those light colored polyester garments. Since the ink becomes a part of the fabric, it opens up a lot of creative possibilities. So sublimation, it sounds pretty high tech, but what about the cost? We have to get that ink going from a solid to a gas to actually fusing with the fabric on the t-shirt. So what do you need to get started with this one? Sublimation is a bit more of an investment upfront, especially compared to something like HTV. You'll need a special sublimation printer that uses those sublimation inks, but don't worry, you don't necessarily need to break the bank. In the future video in this series, we're going to be talking more about how there are actually desktop sublimation printers and manual heat presses out there that are honestly perfect for those of you who might be on a tighter budget. Of course, if you are looking to do some serious production, you would want to look into those more professional grade wide format printers and possibly even a larger tabletop heat press. But there are options for every budget, really. So once you've got the equipment set up, you have it in your house, you have it in your shop, how easy is it actually to use? Again, so we're gonna go over step by step all of the how to print a sublimation transfer and with all of the other methods that we're gonna talk about in this video. But to really sum it up pretty fast, it's basically print and press. You print your design onto the sublimation paper, put it on your garment, and then use the heat press to transfer the design. I mean, that sounds straightforward enough. The basic process is pretty simple. But the big question I think that we're left with is the durability. How durable is it actually? How do sublimation prints hold up over time? Now, durability, this is honestly where sublimation really starts to shine. Since the ink is a part of the fabric, it is incredibly durable and resistant to cracks, fading, everything. In chapter 4 of the ebook, we're going to be emphasizing everything about the durability, the wash and wear on a sublimated shirt. But the design, it's going to look great no matter how many washes that t-shirt has been through, and it is an especially huge advantage to using sublimation to decorate your t-shirts. Now, speaking of selling, how does sublimation handle that increased production? Can you scale up easily if demand grows? Yes, you can. Sublimation is great for apparel brands, which would suggest that you can definitely use it for larger scale productions. Especially with that pro grade equipment that I mentioned earlier, sublimation is literally used by big companies in production every single day. Odds are you have a sublimation garment in your closet somewhere. However, there is one important thing to remember with sublimation, and that is that it works best. Actually, it really only works with fabrics that are mostly polyester or 100% polyester. We want to go over this a lot more in detail in future videos, but if you are, like, you can't wait, chapters 4 and 5 go into all of this in detail in the ebook, so check out the link down below to download your free copy. But to sum it up, your choice of fabric is going to be a little limited if you want to use sublimation, which is going to be something to keep in mind. With sublimation, you can only print these on those polyester garments. The ones with 100% polyester are going to look the best, but on a 100% cotton t-shirt, you can't even use sublimation. So make sure that you're taking that into consideration when you are considering which print method you want to use for your design in your business. Now, all right, moving on to a classic method, one that's been around for ages. Screen printing. Yeah, the OG. All right, so screen printing, it's a little bit more traditional. You create the stencil, which is just fancy words for a screen. It's a very fine mesh, and then you push the ink through the stencil, the open parts on the screen, directly into the fabric of the t-shirt. You can use water-based inks or plastisol, but plastisol is more common. It's just easier to use, it's more durable, and from my experience, it's the one that we prefer in our shop. So who's screen printing really good for? Who would I recommend this print method to? Screen printing is really the best choice for larger apparel brands that need to produce a lot of shirts, or possibly even small businesses who want their shirts to have a really professional, high quality feel, and it becomes a super cost-effective print method when you're doing big batches. Plus, you can do all sorts of cool effects and textures with screen printing that you can't really do with any other of these print methods. Now, before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's talk about money. How much does it cost to get started for a screen printing setup? So screen printing, it has kind of a unique cost structure. It can be pretty expensive to get started, especially if you're only doing small batches at first. But really, with the more shirts that you print, the cheaper it's going to get per shirt. So it really all depends about volume and the scale that you are at with your business. You can start with a manual screen printing kit if you're on a budget, but if you are more serious about making this your business, you'll probably need to invest in an automatic printing press, and then you've got to think about space. You'll have to have a dedicated area for all of your equipment, and some of these bigger automatic machines like the dryers and the air compressors even, you might need some special 220 volt equipment, outlets, whatever it is. So it's safe to say that with screen printing, you're going to need a bit more space, you're going to need a bit more resources to use screen printing than some of these other methods that I'm talking about in this video. Okay, so it's expensive, I got that. I'm gonna need a lot of space to get these guys set up. It's going to be loud, it's going to be messy, it's going to be noisy, but is screen printing really something that a beginner can learn relatively quickly? Well, it's definitely going to be trickier than HTV and even trickier than those screen print transfers that kind of allow the best of both worlds. There are quite a lot of steps that are going to be involved in the whole process. You have to make the stencil or the screen, mix the inks, and then there's actually printing the shirts. We'll break down all of the steps later in this series, but if you guys can't wait, you already know where I'm going with this. Download the ebook if you guys want to get a little bit of a sneak peek and learn about it now. Okay, it takes a little bit of practice to get right, but once you do, the results are absolutely amazing. But what good is an amazing result if it's not durable? So durability. We all want our designs to last, especially if we're spending all of this time and money printing them. So how do screen printed shirts hold up? Screen printing is known for being super durable. If you cure it right, the ink bonds with the fabric and it can withstand tons of washes without fading, cracking. So if you want shirts that are built to last, screen printing is honestly the GOAT. It's a great option for printing bulk t-shirts that last. But last but not least, let's talk about the fourth thing in our category for this specific print method, and that is going to be scalability. We've talked about how screen printing is good for those large batches, but how easy is it to actually scale up production? This is where screen printing really shines. Once you've got your setup in place, you can churn out shirts like crazy. It becomes really economical when you're printing in bulk, making it ideal for large-scale production. So if you're thinking big, screen printing is definitely worth considering for sure. But all right. On to our final method for today. And this one, like I said at the beginning of this video, has been making waves lately. Now this is probably the one you've been waiting for. It is the belle of the ball, DTF, or direct to film. Okay, so with DTF, you print your design directly onto a special film using a DTF printer. Then you apply a powdered adhesive to the wet ink, cure it with heat, and then finally use that transfer to transfer it to the fabric using a heat press. I know, that sounded a little complicated, but it actually gives you a lot of flexibility. You can use DTF on pretty much any type of fabric, cotton, polyester, blends, you name it, which is honestly its biggest advantage because not all print methods can do that. Sublimation. It's also known for being able to print very detailed designs with vibrant colors, and also, again, something to note, it can print full color and it can print white ink. Another thing that not every print method that I talked about can say that it does. Sublimation. But there's one thing about DTFs that either some people love or hate. They have a slightly raised texture on the t-shirt. Sometimes people can refer to it as an orange peel feel. This texture actually does come from the adhesive being applied to the back on the wet ink. So after it gets cured in the oven, that melts at just the right temp to kind of get that appearance and the feel. But wait, Alex, I thought you said DTF was supposed to be great. This sounds like a lot of work. Don't worry, guys. Not everybody has to purchase a DTF printer, buy all of the DTF supplies, learn how to deal with a DTF printer, nozzle checks and maintenance, all of that. Not everybody has to do that. There actually is a better way, and you can, rather than buying a DTF printer yourself like the ones that you guys see behind me, opt for the option to purchase your DTF transfers from a reputable supplier like amstransfers.com. When you order from amstransfers.com, you upload your designs that you need printed, and then we send you the DTF transfers that are either in a roll, if you do them as a gang sheet, or you can have them individually cut up, where really all you need to do is then heat press the actual designs onto your printed apparel, your t-shirts, your sweatshirts, hoodies, whatever it is. And that way you still get the benefits of using DTF transfers without having to worry about all of those headaches and the actual work of printing the DTF transfers yourself. So given all of that, who would I say DTF is a good choice for? Who should be checking this method out? I'd say DTF is great for crafters and hobbyists who want to take things to the next level. They're doing more than just a couple of t-shirts here and there, and they need a method that can keep up. It's also really good for small businesses that need to print on different types of fabric. And they might have orders ranging from a few shirts to, let's say, upwards of 100. So it's good for smaller batches, but still some decent volume. Now, what about the elephant in the room? Cost? What will buying a DTF printer or buying DTF transfers set someone back? So DTF, if you're going to be buying the whole printer package setup, it can be a little pricey to get into at first. We'll be getting into all of that in a ton more detail than I can give in this video in the ebook, but you're going to need a DTF printer, the special film, the adhesive powder, and at least a heat press. There are obviously cheaper entry-level DTF printers with manual heat presses available, so you don't have to go all out with something like that you see behind me right away. But say buying a DTF printer or maybe buying the DTF transfers isn't actually what you're looking for. We invented something that arguably is a completely better way. With AMS Transfers Plus, we give you the tools to start accepting custom orders. I'm talking custom DTF transfers and even custom apparel print on demand on behalf of your customers using your website. We provide you with a gang sheet builder so your customers can go on and upload their own designs, arrange them, size them as needed. And then the trick here is that when your customers actually place an order on your site, that order then gets routed to AMS Transfers for production and shipment. And your customer receives the transfers that they ordered in the mail with your brand name at the top. So like your name on the return address for the shipping labels. It's like your customers are buying from you while we print and ship your DTF transfers on your behalf. In this sense, it's really the best of both worlds, since you not only get the ability to offer your customers custom DTF gang sheets, custom DTF transfers, and custom print-on-demand apparel. That's right. We will even send your customers that finished apparel under your brand name, so they can upload whatever they need onto a t-shirt, hoodie, sweatshirt, and we will send them that finished t-shirt under your brand name. This eliminates the need for buying one of those big bulky DTF printers, buying DTF transfers and then repackaging them, sending them off to your customer, or even buying DTF transfers, pressing the t-shirt yourself, and then sending that t-shirt to your customer. With AMS Transfers Plus, we handle all of the hard work so you can focus on your business. Focus on marketing your business and acquiring customers. With AMS Transfers Plus, we provide you with all of the tools you need to satisfy and take orders from your customers. But okay, all right, I'll stop talking about AMS Transfers Plus. Let's get back to the 4 core things that we should be looking for on each of these print methods. So ease of use, the full DTF process, it does sound like it has quite a few steps, but is it manageable or is it more complex than, say, HTV? Yeah, the full DTF process, as I've talked about so far in this video, it definitely has a lot of steps. I'm not even gonna sugarcoat it. Printing, applying the powder, curing them, getting the transfer applied with the heat press, it's not as simple as something like HTV. Right. But like we were just saying, if you use those ready-made transfers, it basically boils down to using just the heat press, which is, I mean, that's super easy. So it kind of depends on your approach overall. But before we can close out DTF, how do DTF prints hold up after multiple washes? DTF prints are known to be pretty durable. They can handle being washed a lot and without any problems. So they're tough. We've seen DTF transfers go through 50 plus washes with our specific DTF transfers, and when they're applied with the heat press, our customers overall love the results. Now, last but not least, let's talk about the scalability of DTF. Is DTF a method that can grow with your business, or is it better suited to smaller operations? DTF is a good choice for small and medium-sized businesses. If you need to scale up, you can always invest in higher volume equipment and that's where something like AMS Transfers Plus can come in again. So overall, I think that DTF is definitely something to consider. It is, like I said, the belle of the ball. Everybody seems to have their eye on DTF right now, and it is making waves. So we've covered HTV, we've covered sublimation, screen printing, and now DTF. That's a lot of information, I know. It's like kind of a whole t-shirt printing buffet. And to help everybody digest it all, God, that was corny. Let's just quickly go back to those 4 key factors that we talked about at the beginning. Cost, ease of use, durability, and scalability. Those are the real deal breakers, no matter what print method you're thinking about. So when you're trying to decide which t-shirt printing method is right for you, you really need to ask yourself some honest questions. First, think about cost. What can you afford to spend on equipment and supplies? Then consider how easy each of these methods is to learn. Are you just looking for something quick and simple, or are you okay with something that might take a little bit more time to practice and to actually master? Some people are more DIY friendly than others. And I think just admitting that, being open with yourself, and being honest with yourself about if that is you, will set you up for success. Next, think about the durability. How long do you need your designs to last? Do they need to survive being washed 100 times? Or is it okay if they fade after a few washes? It really depends on, are these just like one and done shirts? The person's gonna wear them once, throw them in their closet, and then send that off to Goodwill in a couple of years? Or is it something that people are going to be using every day, going to work, washing it every single day, and they need this shirt to last? It really depends on the purpose of the shirt. And finally, there's the scalability of each of these methods. Do you see yourself printing a ton of t-shirts in the future? Or are you planning to keep things small? The answers to all of these questions, they're really gonna help you narrow down which choice and pick the best method for your needs. It's all about finding a sweet spot where the technical stuff matches up with what you wanna create and what you wanna achieve with your t-shirt printing business. Are you just making cool t-shirts for yourself and your friends? Or are you actually trying to get serious and launch your brand to sell your designs to the world? Keep those big picture goals in mind as you're comparing the different methods. Take some time to really think about where you are and where you want to be with t-shirt printing in the future. All right, so that was a great overview of the main t-shirt printing methods, but as we mentioned at the beginning, this is just part 1 of our DIY t-shirt printing extravaganza. But oh, have we got so much more to cover. Next time, we're going to be diving into designing our t-shirts. Chapter 2 of this guide has some awesome tips on that. Again, amstransfers.com/ebook for those of you who cannot wait. We're also going to be talking about how to find blank t-shirt suppliers and other materials you might need. Chapter 3 actually recommends checking out SNS Activewear because they don't require a resale ID, which is super convenient. Little tip to leave you on here. And then of course, we're going to have dedicated episodes for each of the print methods that we talked about today. We'll go over all of the specific equipment you need, make some recommendations, and I'll walk you through the actual printing process step by step using instructions that we're going to be covering. And that's not all. We're going to be talking about marketing your t-shirts, and we will even give you some tips on how to scale your t-shirt business. We've got a jam-packed series ahead of us, and by the end of it, you'll have all of the knowledge that you need to feel confident, excited, and get started on your t-shirt printing journey. So get subscribed so you don't miss when those videos come out. The world of DIY t-shirt printing is completely open and full of possibilities, both for creative people and entrepreneurs alike. And picking out the right printing method for your first step in making your t-shirt dreams a reality is really important. So as you're thinking about everything that we've talked about today, try to figure out which method speaks to you the most. What kind of designs are you excited to create? How many shirts do you actually see yourself printing? Even if it's a rough idea, it's good to have that starting point. And we are super excited to continue this deep dive with you. We've got a ton more practical tips and info coming your way. But before we go, one last thought to ponder. Imagine your best-selling t-shirt design, the one that everybody wants. Based on what we've talked about today, which method, HTV, sublimation, screen printing, or DTF, feels like it would be the best way to make that design come to life. And why? Think about it, and we'll see you in the next deep dive with even more answers.